gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's July the 25th, 2022. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, as we discuss the news of the day, presented as always by LifeWallet, where the time is now to take charge of your personal health. And another special show for you today, because we're introducing another episode of our very well-received and great series, Goats. And you've seen Jimmy Johnson, you've seen Jim Kelly, you've seen Mario Cristobal. Well, today we're going to bring you an interview that Roy Firestone thinks might be the best of all of them. And that's an interview with legendary Canes quarterback and Cleveland Browns quarterback, and played for the Dallas Cowboys, the Miami Dolphins, Bernie Kosar. And those of you that are familiar with Bernie know that he's had a lot of ups and downs in his life and gone through so much. And there will be a lot of that covered in the interview. But the good news is Bernie has found a holistic medicine treatment that has totally changed his life, has him looking healthier than he's looked in years, has him feeling better than he's felt in years, and has totally altered his entire outlook on life. So with that, let me bring in Roy Firestone, the man behind the interview. And Roy, ever since you had that 1-hour session with Bernie, you haven't stopped smiling. You haven't stopped beaming. You called me up. You said, Gary, I think this might be the best one we've done yet. And talk a little bit about your excitement.
Well, it starts from a humanistic standpoint. I've known Bernie for almost 40 years. I was there the night they won the championship on the sidelines. I told him, I remember it vividly. I just couldn't believe my eyes. I thought the Canes were going to get slaughtered. And I was standing right next to Joe Namath, and about 5 feet from me was Bernie Kosar. We had never met. I think he had a lot on his mind that night before he was introducing himself to me on the sidelines, so he was a little preoccupied. But over the years, obviously, he was played in the NFL. He had 5 playoff teams. He was a Pro Bowl player. He was a beloved quarterback with the Browns, but of course, he's deeply loved in Miami because they equate him with the first national title. But he hit some hard times. He had so many injuries, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. And there were people in recent years who said he looks like he's high or he's stoned or drunk or something because he slurred like that so much. He believes that he had 100 concussions, up to 100 concussions. Certainly, even conservatively, he had 50. You imagine that much head trauma, and he felt it. And he says in this interview, which is stunning, that he was in a coma 3 times. Coma. And he lists all the injuries and all the setbacks, physical ailments that he had, which we're going to show in a moment. But the great news, and the reason I am smiling, is because Bernie Kosar is so much better than I remembered him. I saw him a few years ago, and he was high like that. And you swore that he was drunk, but he wasn't drunk. He had some problems with cognitive awareness. He couldn't. In fact, the doctors gave him 5 years to remain somewhat cognitively effective. And he said, the hell with the drugs and the painkillers and the sleep medication and the antidepressants. I'm going to do this holistically. And you know what? I'm not a huge person for that. But whatever he's taken, Gary, I want some. I'm telling you, it's working. You've never seen him more lucid, thoughtful, super articulate. If we couldn't get him to stop talking, but he was I was just going to say he was so much better than I'd ever remembered him. That is the main reason I was so happy with this interview.
Let me play that clip, and everybody can get a little bit of a feel for what you're referring to.
And as a guy with 40-some surgeries, 80-some broken bones, over 100 concussions, 14 or 15 seizures.
The last seizures. Wait a minute. Wait, you say seizures?
Yeah, the last couple seizures had me in a coma for 72 and 96 hours.
I never,
coming out-
that I did. Was that well kept? Was that a secret that was kept? I never heard that before. Comas.
So yeah, the last couple were pretty extensive, and not that I planned on starting there or even going down that avenue, but again, coming out of that fourth day, that 96th hour, and you're in your fourth day, and you come out of it, and no disrespect to doctors and through the treatments I received, but I still remember to this day the doctor coming in and saying, "God, you're so tough. You're so strong. You made it. You made it through it, and you're doing well. And keep up with your medicine. Keep up with your protocols." And I said to myself, and I said to the doc, "Bro, I think you're killing me." After, I retired in 1997, and from the late 90s through most of this century, to be on 3 or 4 high blood pressure pills, 3 or 4 cholesterol pills, 4 or 5 anti-inflammation pills, just to start your day with a dozen type pills that basically erode your stomach. And still I had high blood pressure, high cholesterol. And then that's not even taking into account all the pain medication, the sleeping medication, the depression type medicine. To be able to be medicated like that, to be scripted like that for so many really decades, and then to have the doc say that, you're doing good, you're doing tough, but really that was some of the impetus, I believe, to really get me on a holistic pathway. Because again, not to pick on the docs and for some of the stuff that happened in the NFL doctors and kind of the rehabs and the treatments that they give, but it wasn't working for me.
One of the things that struck me in this interview was that was what was working for him, and I've always been kind of reluctant to embrace some of the stuff that sounded too organic for me, because I'm a meat and potatoes guy, although I don't eat meat actually, but I'm kind of an old standard guy, get off my lawn, come on with your holistic crap. But guess what? He does something called this hydration things that is goes through his arm, and he's cleaned out his body. His brain is working well. He couldn't even enunciate multiple syllable words.
He absolutely could not.
And now he is. And if you forget this Miami for a second, the Hurricanes, we all love the Hurricanes watching this. But if you love people and you love human beings, and you should, it's a very stirring story, because he found his way back. And I mean, also not just physical toll, but a tremendous financial toll. He lost between 70, 80, maybe even $90 million, which he talks very candidly and openly about, and has regrets, not so much towards the people who ripped him off, which, by the way, included his father. But Bernie talks about, putting the responsibility in his own life, which is a healthy thing to do, and saying, I want to start over. I'm going to be a better person with my money. I'm not going to be such paying off everybody's debts. And he didn't say he was out of the woods, but he's in better shape than he's been in financially for years. So it's a very inspiring, I do a lot of these. I do interviews all the time for all different things. A lot of sports people do ESPN. I got this series from this year called GOATs, another series called GOATs, but it's for the big athletes in general, the Martino, Navratilova, and the Dr. J's and the Jerry West and Rodman and all those people. But as far as the Kane GOATs is concerned, I would say that this is one that touched me the most, because you really felt his ordeal. You felt the struggle, the physical struggle, and the rejection, and the financial loss, and the beatdown this poor guy took over the years. Don't forget, he was a business major at Miami. He knew it was finance. I think he graduated early. In fact, I know he did. He left Miami after just
smart as hell.
Yeah, he was super smart. So it wasn't a case of being a dumb guy. He says he was a trusting guy, and much of the money that he he gave away was to quiet people down. He just was tired of hearing people's sad stories, including his own family. Put his brother through college, put his sister through college. His father ripped him off more than $300,000, and still he forgives him. So when you see this interview, and folks, if you're watching Gary's morning show right now, I beg you to see this. It's a long interview. You can watch it in stretches if you want, or maybe you can put it on your smartphone and listen to it in the car as you're driving. But stay with it, because as this interview goes, it's not one of those, I got a soundbite, I'm out of here. As you see the interview develop, it gets more and more open, touching, inspiring, moving, and you come away with the fact that you like this guy because he's not a whiner. He doesn't point fingers. Oh, they ripped me off. They did this to me. He's saying, I'm responsible for my life and all the great things that I learned about my life. And I'm not saying this as a plug, but it's true. You heard him say it, Gary. Came from the University of Miami through the coaching people in his life, not just Howard Schnellenberger, which was a big, big influence in his life, but also Jimmy Johnson and Gary Stevens and Tressman and all those guys, and Jim Kelly and Earl Morrall. And he says, it taught me how to get off the deck when you get beat and beat down. So it was really an inspiring show. And I'm begging you folks, if you're watching this, you got to see the whole thing, even if you do it in several steps. It's about a 55-minute interview. But if you do it in 15-minute grabs or something, you can really stay with it. I promise you, it is very, very gripping, because I have never seen an athlete talk this candidly about the mistakes he made and how he wants to not blame anyone in his life and not hold on to grudges and anger, even though he has the right to.
So I'm watching it in the background. I wasn't on camera. I'm just watching the interview. And I was struck by a few things. Like, one, Roy, I couldn't believe how engrossed in this interview you became as it kept progressing and progressing. There was one point where he started talking about his dad, and you talked about, and he wrote about it in his book, and it was a delicate subject, but you start talking to him about the things that went on with his dad. Roy, you were like going into the screen, like you were so.
You know why, Gary? Because everybody in their lives, most everybody in their lives, have had some kind of challenge financially or some kind of setback in losing somebody in their life that was matter to them, or trusting somebody in their life that ended up not being a great person to trust. And I could really identify with this guy and what was going on. And when he started talking about his father, I said, I'm not looking for Daddy Dearest here. I don't want you to tell the audience what an asshole he was. I want you to tell us, because it's an important message, man. How do you forgive somebody who ripped you off to $300,000, cost you the Cleveland Browns front office job because he blew up at Al Lerner, the owner of the Browns? How do you forgive? And basically his answer was stunning, but he also said, I don't want to live the rest of my life holding grudges. I don't want to blame people. I don't want to have anger and what ifs. And man, if that isn't the best message to hear for people in this day and age, for all the problems that we have in our lives right now, the division in this country, stop blaming people. Start looking at yourself and what can I do to make myself better? And he did.
So after the interview was over, I'm like I was totally amazed at the transformation of Bernie Kosar.
I mean, really, this goes beyond any of the interviews we've done so far. I mean, we had Jim Kelly. It was very touching and was very moving and inspiring with his cancer battles. We talked to, obviously, Jimmy about his career and his life. One of his sons was an alcoholic. I mean, I don't always do this kind of make him cry Roy interview. And by the way, Bernie didn't cry.
He didn't cry. He held it together.
But I got to tell you, I'm interested in the human condition, and I don't mean to sound too lofty about it. I am. I'm interested in this story, and I'm interested in how people climb back from I have people in my family that are struggling right now, and I wanted them to see this show because this guy, he doesn't make excuses. He doesn't blame anybody. And even though he has plenty of people to blame, he says, I want to start over in my life and I want to live my life. I'm in the fourth quarter, metaphorically speaking. He's 58 years old now. Who knows how long he has? He says, but I want to live my life with a smile on my face, with health in my body, but also an emotional health. And man, I was so impressed with this guy. And I think he was actually a little surprised too at the depth of this interview, if I may say.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was stunned. So I call him up afterwards just to say, Bernie, what are you like? What are you taking? What are you doing? What is this fountain of youth that you've discovered? And I thought one of the more dramatic parts of the interview was when you outlined all of the aches, pains, injuries, misfortune that he went through. And you asked him, was it all worth it? Let me play that clip right now.
But I want to show the list of injuries. This is stunning. When I looked at this list, 15, you probably figured you'd had 50 concussions, maybe. Jaw and nose are broken half a dozen times, teeth knocked out, shoulder arthroscopic surgeries on both, a dozen broken ribs, elbow, multiple surgeries on both, the hip bone removed for ankle surgery, the left hand, fingers, all fingers broken, 10 broken multiple times, knees, both ACLs, ankles, toes, all 10 toes broken multiple times, 20 at least surgeries, broken bones, at least 50, not counting the fingers, the toe. My question, was it worth it?
Oh, absolutely. Roy, you know what? I actually believe that what I'm going through now, what I'm learning, that I wouldn't be able to have learned and understood what I've learned over the last 58 years without going through that. I mean, just some of the stuff that we're able to do from the holistic treatment side of it from a health perspective. If I wouldn't have had all those injuries, I don't think I would have been able to be as aggressive as I was from the juicing, the IV side of it, from the ability to really get myself and people off of all the medications and stuff, the ability to be sitting here today and I don't want to say reverse the dementia process, but at least slow down the process to where guys like you and me now could have a conversation like this and actually enjoy it and understand each other, as opposed to the direction I was going 5 years ago.
Wow. I mean, really, folks, I mean, this is something else. This goes beyond a football interview about what was it like to play Florida, which we have some of that too, by the way.
Oh, there was a lot of that. I mean, at least half.
We broke down the national championship game. And the fact is, he told me this several times. You probably heard it over the years. They were overconfident against Nebraska. He said they were so sure that they could throw on Nebraska and throw on first down and throw often and throw long and not little halfback option passes. I mean, little sideline passes, but downfield. And if you remember that game, were you there that night? I was there.
100%. I was there.
I was there.
One of the most amazing things I've ever seen that night.
They moved the ball against one of the great college football teams of all time at will. They couldn't stop the Canes. And yet, of course, the Canes defense struggled a little bit in the second half. But the Canes led 31-17 in the fourth quarter, and Nebraska came all the way back, had a chance to tie it with an extra point kick. They decided to go for two. And, of course, we know with Kenny and touching that just with the fingertip, just barely getting his finger. But here's the cool thing. Gary, I swear you heard it. Bernie said to me, we were expecting them to make the 2-point conversion and take the lead, but we had 47 seconds and 2 timeouts. I'm going, 47 seconds. Now, in those days, that was not like it is these days, with Brady and those guys going down the field in 13 seconds and kicking the field goal. He's talking about obviously the early 80s, 83, 84 season, 47 seconds, not a lot of time in those days. Now it is almost with 2 timeouts. But he says, I felt confident that even if they got the 2-point conversion, which I had never heard this before, we were going to go down the field and score with 47 seconds left. That's how sure he was. And the whole team was. They were cocky almost. And, that was the game with the Fumbler-Ruski, the famous play with Dean Steinkuhler. And, as I said before, I was there that night and I came in from Los Angeles. I said, I'm just hoping they can stay on the field with Nebraska. I hope it's a reasonably competitive game. And they are scoring, boom, boom, boom. He's throwing passes all over the place. He knew that Nebraska wasn't ever, because they thought Miami was going to be this, two-back offense, throw a screen pass once in a while, but mostly run the football short. They were blown away. Nebraska was shocked at how Miami approached it. That's all Howard Schnellmer and Gary Stevens. But anyway, so that we talk about that. We talk about his comeback against the Gators the next year for Jimmy with 12 seconds left. But we also talked about what he learned through his experiences as a young kid. Don't forget now, you still had Jim Kelly when he got into camp. You had Vinny Testaverde. You had Mark Richt as a quarterback. You had Kyle Vanderweyde. You had all of these guys ahead of him. And he ended up getting the starting job against the Gators. Yeah. I think if I'm not mistaken, Kelly had just left. I may be wrong.
Yeah, Kelly left, but before he got the job, he thought about leaving because of how stiff the competition was. And he talks about everything that Howard said.
If Bernie Kosar had transferred, I mean, we would have been okay with Vinny eventually, but not
Howard kept him.
Yeah, Howard convinced him. He says, and it's in the interview. He says, you'll be okay if you want to go to another school, but you're going to wonder the rest of your life, could I have competed against the best? And you don't want to be an old man like me thinking, well, I wish I should have done this or should have. He says, because you're going to, the rest of your life, every time things get tough for you, you're going to want to get something else.
You're going to want to run.
And it's a great message for the kids who, many of whom go to the portal because they're not happy with their playing time. Yeah. Sometimes the best thing about competition is to be second string or third string and work your way up. And boy, what an amazing story this was. And I get goosebumps when I do interviews sometimes, and it's not all the time, but there's rare moments when I can feel it, and I could feel it. I was feeling, I like this guy. I like his attitude about life. He's inspiring, and he's also thoughtful, and he's grateful. All these things that are important for people to live a life of quality. Just be motivated to be the best person you can be. I don't care how cheerleadery it sounds. It's so true. How do you become a better person? How do you become a healthier person? And this guy worked his tail off to become that. And I urge people to want to see this because I think this is the best interview of the much we've done so far.
And the other ones were very, very good. I thought the Mario one was unbelievable. All three of them were great. You mentioned the sequence where you asked Bernie what was going through his mind as Nebraska was going through the 2-point conversion. I clipped it, so let me play that one real quick.
Action. Sure. And then here is the 2-point conversion. Tell us what's going through your mind.
I liked the two touchdown clips of the great Alonzo Highsmith and great Albert Bentley running for touchdowns before you show this beautiful play by Kenny Calhoun right there. In that interim of the Jeff Smith touchdown and where Coach Osborne was going for it for 2 points. And I'm going to say this, I'm not saying this to be funny, Roy, and I'm absolutely not saying this to be cool nor revisionist history and stuff. But there was Coach Schnellenberger does such an amazing job of grooming me to be his quarterback, and almost like he was grooming me for life. And some of the things and principles that he taught me as a quarterback and a leader are absolutely applicable towards parenting and life as I've aged out. But one of the massive things that he taught me before the season, and he harped on this with me, was he goes, you absolutely anticipate the worst thing happening to you when you're out there during the game. So if if the other team has a chance to score, you have to anticipate that they're going to score. And you, as the quarterback, must realize what you need to do to overcome that worst thing that happened. Because if the worst thing doesn't happen, you could always go out there and take a knee. Okay, we got 100 guys that could take.
So you're saying prepare? He said prepare for the worst, basically.
Always prepare for the worst. So that was my coaching points through spring practice, through fall practice, through the whole football season. Now, he did not have, now by the Orange Bowl game, you don't need to be telling me that. That's been drilled in my head. So as all that was happening, I was on the sidelines preparing them if they did score the 2 points. I had a set of plays in mind that I wanted to do. And again, I'm not saying this to be funny, but they hadn't stopped us all day, Roy. And there was 47 seconds to go, and we had 2 timeouts. We had an inordinate amount of time to move the ball down the field. So I was actually preparing my 2-minute plays with my guys so that if they did score, would be an immediate hush upon the Orange Bowl, and that would be so deflating. I did not want my guys suffering through any of that emotional letdown. So I had us ready from this.
I just thought that was amazing. It would have been a crusher to see them hit that 2-pointer after all that, taking that big lead. But he wasn't even slightly intimidated by it. He was ready to go. I think it was the greatest single game in person that I've ever seen with a lot on the line. Now, there've been some great games I've been able to go to, but with the national championship was on the line. Miami had almost no chance to even be in the conversation. They lost to the Gators. I think it was 28-3 to open the season, and here they are because the way things set up that night, they could play for the national title. It's just an amazing story. I thought it was the most thrilling game I had ever seen, with a lot on the line, with everything on the line. And he delivered, and I'll never forget that night. I'll just never forget. I don't think any Cane fans who was alive or is a young person who followed the Canes will ever forget the first time. It's almost like sex, you never forget the first time. Hey, can I do a shameless plug for a second? Shameless
100%.
plug?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Guess what? I just got named to the Southern California Sports Hall of Fame, and I am proud.
Oh, wow. That's right. That's awesome. Congratulations.
And I do want to plug that because I'm very grateful and very humbled by the honor. We went in with John Madden. Wow. Me and Al Davis and people like Joe Montana in years past, and Eric Dickerson and some of the great LA and California athletes. So I'm very tickled and very honored that I was able to get that award. I never thought I'd get that.
I still can't believe they stole you from South Florida.
Yeah.
Well, we had you at the beginning.
Listen, man, I tell this story a lot. I got fired when I was 21 years old. I was on the air at 20. I think 22 I got fired. And I thought my career was over. Another story, inspiring story, but I really did. I was depressed. I said, this was my dream job. I'm in my hometown. I get to cover my Canes. I get to cover the Dolphins, my favorite teams as a kid. I get to go to spring training, interview the ball players, and then it's over, or so I thought. Within 6 months, I got a job in Los Angeles. I've been here ever since. That is 45 years ago.
This was a news director at Channel 10 that fired you?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Remember,
I had a chance to see it. There was a reunion, a 50-year, whatever it was, 45-year reunion. And I was thinking, I want to go up to this guy who fired me, not to be a jerk, but, say, hey, I kind of did okay. And I walked up to him. I'm not going to give his name, but he was not a beloved news director in Miami in those days. And I said, hi. Oh, yes. How are you, Roy? Like it was very begrudging instead of, hey, congratulations on your career. He was still that guy from 45 years ago. And he goes, well, I'm happy for your success, but you really weren't ready for us. He couldn't just leave it alone.
Couldn't let it go.
Couldn't let it go. But Hey, it worked out fine for me. I'm very happy. I still have a lot of friends in South Florida. I still consider myself, as I said before in many interviews, both my boys went to Miami. They're huge Cane people. My son Nick was with the football department and football office, working films and stuff. He loved it. So we're real Canes, and we're really excited about this year. But I do want my kids to know that there's a heritage for Miami. The Ted Hendrickses, and even before that, of course, the George Myras, but more recently, the Bernie Kosars. Even my son knew who Bernie Kosar was because he was a fan of the Browns at one point. So he at least knew who he was. But it's important, I think, for our audience, especially our younger audience, to know that there were some really interesting stories and great players that came to Miami in prominence. And we're going to be talking to Chuck Foreman. Some may not know that name because it was a long time ago, but maybe the most versatile athlete ever for the football team. Played 3 different positions. We talked to Mark Richt. And, we hope that in the next few weeks, we're going to be talking to Alonso, and we're going to be talking to maybe Leon Searcy and some other people. I want to get John Vilma on. So we're going to have a lot of people over the next, we hope this series lasts for multiple years, but I think people are enjoying it. I'm seeing some of the comments, and I'm tickled to do it. It's an honor. It really is.
Well, I'm looking forward to see what the comments are after people watch this Bernie Kosar interview, because it really is spectacular. And I was riveted watching it live transpire, and I'm sure people are going to really like it. So, Roy, thank you for taking time to relive it here this morning, and we'll be talking to you again soon.
Also, one last thing. If anyone wants to get a hold of me privately and ask me questions, I'm happy to do it. Just go to royfirestone.com. There's comments if you want to have a conversation with me, something you like, something maybe you didn't like. But I'm happy to do it. You can't really do that on YouTube. You can put comments, but you can't. I want to do give and take. So if you want to go to royfirestone.com, you can see all the things that I'm doing. And I'll answer every question if people have it. So there you go.
And we also link to your YouTube channel on all the
Yes.
pages where people can go see some of your non-sports videos. You talk about the Beatles and different other topics.
But if you go to YouTube and it goes Roy Firestone Beatles Room, you'll see my collection of my Beatles memorabilia.
All right, Roy. Well, thank you so much, and we'll be talking to you again soon.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, we have some other good stuff on the website this morning, but before we get to that, let's hear from our friends at Life Wallet.
Growing up in Australia was unreal. I grew up in a small fishing town where I kind of had the freedom to go running around, go fishing and all that stuff. From there, I moved to the city where I didn't really have as much freedom to run around, so I got really heavily involved into sports, and that kind of progressed on towards playing at a semi-professional level here in Australia, and then moving forward to playing college level football in America currently. I think maybe my biggest inspiration is kind of looking back at the life I had, just working construction for 8 years, and sometimes I sit back and kind of have to realise how far I've come since putting on the high vis and throwing a hammer around, looking back and seeing how far I've come from then. Going to uni, getting a degree, onto my masters, playing football at an elite level. I think just going back and seeing how far I've come, it made me realise that I can keep going, play at a professional level because I've already come this far. Looking back and seeing how proud everyone is here, back in my hometown, and just that keeps motivating me.
All right, we have some other great stuff on the website this morning. Be sure you check out our CaneSport On 3 item, breaking down how the return of players who missed spring ball will impact this year's team when fall drills kick off on August the 5th. We also have a closer look at an interesting North Carolina team that most people are picking to finish behind UM and Pitt in the Coastal, but which has the potential to cause problems for the Canes, as evidenced by North Carolina's 3 straight victories over Miami. We also continue our position by position series with a dive into the defensive back depth chart. And that's a very interesting position, no doubt about it. People are making some assumptions there in terms of the starting lineup. We say not so fast, and that means we're talking about Cam Kinchins. We really think that Cam Kinchins has a chance to challenge Avante Williams for the starting job opposite James Williams in fall camp. That will be interesting. And then can Tyreek Stevenson and Porter hold on to the starting jobs at cornerback after, several guys, DJ Ivey for one, Isaiah Dunson for another, to Corey Couch for a third. All had really strong spring practices and are hoping to challenge Porter and Stevenson for starting jobs this fall. We also continue our CaneSport Player Performance Index rankings with number 7, Henry Parrish. You might be saying, oh man, number 7. How does Henry Parrish get to number 7 without ever having played a down for the Hurricanes? Well, a couple reasons. A, it shows you that the roster may not be quite as deep as you think it is. And B, because we really think Henry Parrish is going to impact this season. If the coaches did not believe that Henry Parrish could be a big part of this offense and get a lot of playing time, they probably wouldn't have taken him in the transfer portal. So we take a look at all that with Henry Parrish. From over the weekend, there was a lot of content as well. We ranked the 10 toughest Hurricanes with an eye on Mario Cristobal's goal of creating a tough team, both mentally and physically. Who do we rank as the toughest Cane? We'll check that out, as well as our analysis on why this year's Canes defense is going to be better than the 2021 version. And I'll tell you right now, that influx of transfers that are going to bring a lot of rotation minutes is a huge reason for that. We also have an interesting look at how the Canes offense is going to be different under Josh Gaddis. We look at his concepts, the balance that he tries to achieve between the running game and the passing game. I think you'll enjoy that. Also over the weekend, we continued our Player Performance Index countdown with number 8, Jaleel Skinner, and number 9, Jalen Knighton. So you can check that out. We had in-depth breakdowns of the defensive line and linebacker positions to get you guys ready for the start of training camp that's getting closer by the minute. And then we also took a look at a breather game that UM will get coming off of Texas A&M with a closer look at Middle Tennessee State in Game 4. We had some recruiting features as well. We caught up with Antoine Jackson, who committed earlier this month. He'll be on hand for the big recruiting barbecue that's coming together next Saturday. Has he shut down his recruitment? Check out what he's saying. We also update where things stand with 4-star area running back Davion Gauss. He has an offer. He also will be at the recruit barbecue next weekend. And also the status of Dillard High standout 2024 defensive lineman Joshua Lloyd, who already now has more than a dozen offers. So lots for you guys to sink your teeth into on the website this morning. Hope you enjoy it all. This show is going to be sporadic this week. We're finishing up, catching up on some vacation days, Matt and myself, and but we will be full bore with Good Morning CaneSport videos starting a week from today. We promise you that. So for still vacationing Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. Thank you as always for starting your day with us. Make sure you check out that UM Goats interview with Bernie Kosar. You're going to love it. See you next time, everybody.